The CDC manipulates data on defensive use of firearms to make it more palatable for the anti-gun coalition. Welcome to another installment of the Connecticut Gun Bench. Today's video is brought to you by P.A.N. Firearms, LLC. P.A.N. Firearms for your NRA certification and multifaceted gun training. You can reach us at 203-300-6343 or use our website at www.panfirearmsllc.com. As always, there'll be a link in the description box below. And let's talk about this. Now, if you've been following my channel for a little bit, a while back I did, and this is probably over a year ago, I did a video on the CDC attaching gun violence as a health epidemic, which, if you remember, then disgraced Governor Cuomo from New York did the same thing. What happened was that allows them to do is to circumvent the Constitution when it comes to gun rights. The CDC has been, going into this investigation, and now information has come forward that they have been in communication with the White House and other officials, and it seems those officials were not happy with the fact that the CDC reflected that there are a large number of defensive uses of firearms among the citizenry, and certain officials were not happy with that number because it hinders them from passing gun laws. Now, the Reload, if you know the reload.com, great information there, had a very, very good piece on that, and I want to go into that a little bit. So here it is from the Reload. The Center for Disease Control, CDC, deleted a reference to a study it commissioned after a group of gun control advocates complained it made passing new restrictions more difficult. The lobbying campaign spanned months and culminated with a private meeting between CDC officials and 3 advocates last summer. A collection of emails obtained by the Reload show. Introductions from the White House and Senator Dick Durbin, Illinois, office helped the advocates reach top officials at the CDC agency after their initial attempt to reach out went unanswered. So the advocates went to the CDC and said, we're not too big on what you're saying, and the CDC did not reply. So they went to Dick Durbin and other officials to get the CDC to reply to them. The advocates focused their complaints on the CDC's description of its review of studies that estimated defensive gun uses happen between 60,000 and 2.5 million times per year in the United States, attacking criminologist Gary Kleck's work establishing the top end of the range. Quote, that 2.5 million number needs to be killed, buried, dug up, killed again, and buried again. Mark Bryant, one of the attendees, wrote to CDC officials after their meeting. It is highly misleading, is used out of context, and I honestly believe it has zero value, even as an outlier point in honest DGU discussions. Bryant, who runs Gun Violence Archive, argued Kleck's estimate has been damaging to the political prospects of passing new gun restrictions and should be eliminated from the CDC's website. Wow. So a anti-gun coalition, the leader, goes to the CDC and says, you need to kill that defensive use of firearms number because it's hurting our chances of getting more gun control. Yeah. Quote, and while that very small study by Gary Kleck has been debunked repeatedly by everyone from all sides of this issue, once again, they're not saying where this information is. They're just saying it. Even Kleck, it still remains canon by gun rights folks and their supporting politicians and is used as a blunt instrument against gun safety regulations every time there is a state or federal level hearing, he wrote in the same email. Put simply, in the time that study has been published, as a CDC study gun violence prevention policy has ground to a halt, in no small part because of the misinformation that small study provided. Let's put that in layman's terms. We don't like the fact this is hurting our chances of gun control, so it's misinformation. Where have we heard that before? Despite initially standing behind the description in the defensive gun use section of its Fast Facts website on gun violence, the CDC backtracked after a previously undisclosed virtual meeting with the advocates on September 15, 2021. Quote, "We are planning to update the fact sheet in early 2022 after the release of some new data," Beth Reimels, Associate Director for Policy Partnerships and Strategic Communications at the CDC's Division of Violence Prevention, said in one email to the 3 advocates on December 10th. Quote, "We will also make some edits to the content we discussed that I think will address the concerns you and your other partners have raised." The CDC did not respond to a request for comment on the decision, but none of the emails the agency released related to it did not show any attempts to obtain other outside points of view either before or after the meetings with the gun control advocates. Hannah Bristol of the White House Office of Public Engagement did not respond to a request for comment on her role in the discussions beyond what the emails reveal. Emily Hampstein, Senator Durbin's communications director, told the Reload their office's only involvement was simply connecting stakeholder organizations with a federal agent as part of a basic function of our work. But notice they're only talking to the anti-gun groups. They're not talking to anybody else. They got the CDC to talk to these advocates, but they didn't bother to go out and say, well, maybe you should talk to these people also. Can you not see the one-sided, very nefarious use of a government agency here? The decision to remove a CDC commission report from the agency's website on gun statistics at the apparent behest of gun control advocates may further strain its relationship with congressional overseers, especially program Republicans who are set to take control of the House next year. The relationship between the two, already frayed over the coronavirus pandemic, could reach new lows not seen in decades during the 1900s. Congress put restrictions on CDC funding in response to officials openly working with gun control groups to try and ban handguns. Quote, "We need to revolutionize the way we look at guns like what we did with cigarettes," Mark Rosenberg, director of CDC's National Center for Injury Prevention, told Washington Post in 1994. "It used to be that smoking was a glamorous symbol, cool, sexy, macho. Now it's dirty, deadly, and banned." Kleck, professor emeritus at Florida State University's College of Criminology and Criminal Justice, stood by his research. He said the CDC did not reach out to him for his perspective before making the change. He argued the removal of the reference to his estimate was blatant censorship and said it was evidence of the politicization of the agency. No kidding. It's not the first time the Biden administration has used a government agency for their agenda. Quote, "CDC is just aligning itself with the gun control advocacy groups," Kleck told the Reload. "It's just saying we are their tool and we will do their bidding, and that's not what a government agency should do." The website change and the fact that it resulted from a lobbying campaign were first reported by The Trace earlier this year. The publication identified Bryant's involvement and that of Devin Hughes, who runs GVpedia. The new emails revealed through a Freedom of Information Act request filed by Constantinos Moros, a lawyer representing the California Rifle and Pistol Association, showed the nature of that lobbying and the involvement of the Newtown Action Alliance chairwoman, Poe Murray. Okay. Bryant and GVF gained notoriety for its count of mass shooting that uses a much broader definition, with any shooting where 4 or more victims are injured, compared to the Associated Press definition of 4 or more killed. That's how they come up with that crazy number of 253 mass shootings. That's how they do it. Any event where 4 people are injured, not killed, injured by a firearm, that is how they count as a mass shooting, where I believe the FBI actually uses the standard of 4 people killed. The difference in methodology results in a nearly 10-fold difference in the number of identified mass shootings. GVA's count, alongside its near real-time tracking of shootings through media reports, has been widely cited by media outlets since it was launched in 2013. Now, I don't have to go any further into that. It's a very interesting article. You should read into it, because that's how they come, as I said, come up with that number of mass shootings. Any event, whether it be gang-related, drug-related, doesn't matter. If 4 people are injured, mass shooting. And they put it into their tally, and media outlets pick up on it, and that's how they use it. So I do have the email train that was sent out, starting from the beginning, from the CDC, all these anti-gun groups, to the CDC, CDC to White House officials and Dick Durbin's office. It's all here. I'm going to put it in the description box below where you can look through it. And I'm going to go with this one. I just want to go through this one here. Okay, this was from Devin Hughes to Paul Murray, who was mentioned before. And I just want to read this one because this is interesting. Dear Director Bonds, I'm writing to you today with a suggested revision to the Firearm Violence Prevention Fact Sheet on the CDC's website. I am the president and founder of GVpedia, a nonprofit that provides access to gun violence research and data. Our mission is to ensure that policymakers have access to the most accurate, reliable, and up-to-date gun violence research. Under the section of the fact sheet titled, What is defensive gun use? How often does it occur? The following information is provided. All quote, although definitions of defensive gun use varies, it is generally defined as the use of a firearm to prevent and defend oneself, family, others, and or property against crime or victimization. Estimates of defensive gun use vary depending on the questions asked, population studied, time frame, and other factors related to the design of studies. The report Priorities for Research to Reduce Threat of Firearm-Related Violence indicates a range of 60,000 to 2.5 million defensive gun uses each year. The 2.5 million figure cited by the fact sheet and the report reference come from a small private surveys conducted in the 1990s. These surveys came under intense academic scrutiny, which uncovered a number of fatal flaws in their methodology. Dr. David Hemingway of Harvard University published a survey research and self-defense gun use. Once again, I'm not going to go through all this, but it gives you an idea of what they're trying to do. Let's get down to the brass tacks here. They're trying to manipulate the data on defensive use of firearms so that they can use that to then push for more gun control. Because their claim is that the $2.5 use number hurts their position. This is once again very disturbing and shows a nefarious use of a government agency to push an agenda. And it's unfortunate that these government agencies are not independent. They are literally working together hand in hand with the White House to then push for more restriction on your rights. I hope that when the Republicans take over the House that they start exposing all of this, because once again, mainstream media is not going to talk about this. They'll talk about these imaginary mass shooting numbers that come out of faulty data, manipulated data, quite honestly. But they won't talk about the fact that a government agency is being manipulated by the White House to produce the results that they want. So let's keep an eye on this. And once again, you should read both the article and this email chain to get a better idea of exactly what they're up to, because it's damn disturbing. But let me know what you think. As always, you can leave your comments in the comment section below. And as always, any statements of violence or statements that lead to violence will be removed. Please like, share, comment, subscribe. Don't forget to hit that notification bell so you're notified the next time a video goes live. I'll see you on the next one. Peace.